Hello YouTube, this is Critical Input, and this video did quite well, all things considered, and at the end of it, I said I would make a video on the second chapter of the game. So, let's make a second chapter of the game. So I'm just going to get this straight. I was working on the chapter 2 video, but then I saw the Bubsy trailer, and I decided to report it, and I decided that I can just make this video first and then make the Deltarune video next. It also gives me an excuse to get one extra thing ready for that video, which I'm not going to say. But now on to the actual review section. Firstly, I think it's important to go over the history behind the Bubsy. It first came to fluorescent as a platformer showcasing the Cheetos mascot, but they decided to make their own mascot since it would be cheaper and more merchandisable if they made one themselves. Bubsy's design took a while for the team to develop, but when the father of the orange marsupial, Michael Berlin, commissioned the farmer art creator Ken Macklin, who has made comics based off of anthropomorphic animals, and the first one that I got sent was perfect. Michael Berling did have some troubles before development started, as when he suggested the game to the publisher he got told to continue making story-based game, but he fought back with his producer telling him that if he can write a persuasive document of why the original Sonic the Hedgehog was so good, they would be interested. And as you can tell, it worked, for the better, or for the worse. While working on the first game, a cartoon pilot got pitched in collaboration with Taco Bell for some reason. The series carried on after that, but I only want to talk about the first game in this video. The first Bubsy game released in May of 1993 on the Mega Drive, with a later SNES port on New Year's Eve 1995. Two mixed reviews, with people saying about it shows how Nintendo systems could run something as fast as Sonic, while at the same time people would complain about how the controls were janky and uncontrollable. But to me, the person who grew up on Sonic and Mario games, I've always loved Bubsy. In an ironic kind of way, of course, and with Bubsy and the Perfect Collection releasing not that long ago, I decided to finally beat the game and make a video onto it. So let's dive into the read how Bubsy in Claws of Encounter of the Third Kind is a good game. Bubsy is split up between 5 areas with 3 levels in each, besides the final level which has its own theme. With Area 1 being set in a village, with a variety of mountains and houses, most likely being where Bubsy lives and hangs around. Area 2 being a carnival fair, with Bubsy being able to participate in some of the various activities that one could do in a fair, such as riding the many broken coasters and showing off how strong he is, on whatever this is called. Area 3 takes place in the Wild West, with Bubsy taking trains to the next area. Area 4 takes place in Canada, with it taking place on a massive lake with beavers, birds and roboticized flying turtles, real as a matter of speak. Area 5 is a jungle with massive spawn level design stretching on for minutes on end. And finally, the final area, the Woolly Spaceship. How did we go from jungle to outer space? Doesn't matter though, it's time to commit a genocide and extinct the woolly species. The actual gameplay in these stages consists of running, gliding and pouncing upon the many enemies that try to halt Bubsy's quest. The controls vary with each version of the game, with the Mega Drive controls being D-pad move, A makes Bubsy glide, and B is a basic jump, with C moving the camera around. The SNES controls are different, with Y and A being glide, B being jump, and L plus R moving the camera around. The actual movement of Bubsy is one of the main reasons why it's remembered as an unfair and poorly created game. It is because they try to recreate the jumping physics of a platformer with momentum, while simultaneously trying to make how jumping works in a non-momentum platformer like Mega Man. But that's a quirk, as only apparent if you try to play the game like it's one of those platformers, because when you start playing it as if it's its own game, you start having more fun and die a lot less. And the remaining annoyance is nullified when you realise that the glide doesn't have momentum with it, but it keeps the momentum that you started it with, so if you mess up a jump you can realign yourself quite easily. There is something in the gameplay compartment that I cannot objectify against, and that is the enemy placement. which becomes a problem when you realise that Bubsy takes around a fifth of the screen, making it hard to properly see where all the enemies are, which ultimately leads to countless unnecessary death. The enemies themselves are fine, if not well designed with well choreographed attacks. The only reason that they are annoying is the fact of that they tend to blend in with the environment and just come out of nowhere. And that gets exemplified when you realise that Bubsy only has one hit point. So like I brought up earlier, there are 6 different worlds in the game, and in each of the worlds, a new mechanical change in the gameplay gets used alongside the enemies, which also changes design throughout the game, which I find to be very cool because most platformers back then would just copy and paste and reuse the original enemy designs. Which when you think about it is a smart move since it allows you to add more stuff to the game while reducing the game size. And I find that it ultimately just increases the immersion that I get while playing. I just need to not think about the flying turtles. The enemy's attacks often fall under 3 categories: idle, projectile, and moving. Now I don't really know how to talk about the world, so instead I'm just going to talk about each of the gimmicks they introduce. I just realised that's what I'm supposed to do. Anyway, the first set of stages takes place in the village with basic platforming with multiple chances to get horizontal and vertical peaks. The area mostly has you running up hills and past houses. The second area is a fair where the speed gets up to max, with boots that throw you into walls, and roller coasters that send you up cliffs. Also, the ride in the park are usable, which I like since the developers would not need to do that since it's a platform. Why would you need to go in a random dinky coaster? The next area is the Wild West, where there's technically 6 stages, but they are combined into 3 with 2 sections in each. With the first section being you hijacking a plane and the second section being you walking around the desert, running into cactuses and falling down crevices. So is this what Canada looks like? Anyway, jokes aside, Area 4 isn't that bad, it's more or less just annoying, as throughout it there's many bottomless pits where there's water there, where it makes it so they have to go along these rafts and avoid enemies. Area 5, the jungle. I do not like this stage. It does have a good idea, but it's not a good idea for a bloody platformer. Make one mistake, fall. Try to jump on a leaf, haha, no, you fall off. Down all the way down to the bottom again. Early spaceship. I also don't like the stage either. I know it's meant to be the end of the game and so that it would be hard and all, but they took it too far, man. You can't get anywhere on this stage without getting absolutely decimated by these projectiles. After the end of the 3rd act in each world, they're the boss against a Wooly in a spaceship. And I've made excuses for a load of the game flaws, but they're just not good at all. They're all neo-identical, just changing of how they move and how many they are. The only somewhat unique boss of the game is the final boss, as it just spams enemies at you while moving too fast, not allowing you to jump over it, with the only way that I managed to beat it was to just give Bubsy a seizure moving back and forwards. So that's the gameplay of Bubsy, but there's still stuff I do want to talk about. For 1993, the music is shockingly good, with some of the best songs in the game being the title screen music and the wet peeve, but most of the tracks are good and hold a chaotic energy that illuminate alongside the gameplay. But there are 2 flaws in them. 1. The looping sections are repetitive, with them only really being about 15 seconds long. And 2. The Mega Drive version of the game. So you see, throughout the video I've only been playing songs from the SNES soundtrack, and that's because the music in the Mega Drive soundtrack is a lot less lower quality. Yeah, it's not that good. Even for Mega Drive standards, which can produce some of the best sounding retro songs. Clear that the songs were made for the Super Nintendo originally and were just poorly transferred over, which can happen when the MIDI files don't include the right instruments. Also with version differences, there's 4 unique versions of the game, with them being Bubsy Mega Drive, Bubsy for Super Nintendo, Super Bubsy for PC, and Namaniku Bubsy no Daiboken. Super Bubsy was a PC part of the Mega Drive version of the game, and Namaniku Bubsy no Daiboken is the Super Nintendo version, but in Japanese with different voice lines. Here's a comparison.
What could possibly go wrong? Did I mention I don't like heights?
Yan ayaw kang.
Or like a bridge too short?
So that's Bubsy 1, an incompetent yet fun and chaotic platformer that somehow got an entire series and a pilot for a cartoon. Overall, the game is fundamentally bad and should be a 4 out of 10 for a platformer game, but I don't know, man, I like it a lot. I give it an 8 out of 10. I love it. The game is chaotic and fun. What else can I say? But seriously though, if you are going to play the SNES version, it's so much better and you will have your mind blown.